Hey, what's up? JJ Berthum here. Good morning, evening, or afternoon, or midnight, depending upon where you are. This is another, well, first of all, I got a lot of really great feedback on the last video, so thank you guys for watching and giving me that. All of that really matters a lot to me, and I greatly appreciate it. So, since you guys seemed to get something out of that video, I decided to pick apart a piece that I've written to actually be played by a real orchestra, because I had gotten some commentary about people talking about timpani tuning and stuff, and so this is an example of a piece. A piece that I arranged. I didn't compose this, obviously. It's the Star-Spangled Banner, but I arranged this for my church orchestra to play. And it's an interesting example because the instrumentation, as you might have noticed already, is very it's very odd. It's very piecemeal because obviously we don't have a full orchestra at staff at our church, but we have a lot of individual instrumentalists, so we kind of try to get whoever can play together to make a bit of an orchestra. So so I arranged the Star-Spangled Banner, and which is actually going to be performed this Sunday. I'm hoping to get it on video, and maybe I'll post that. But anyway, I digress. Okay, so I'll just start from the beginning and kind of play it. I hope the sound quality is better. This time I'm using an outboard microphone, so I hope it doesn't pop or crackle or anything like that, but I'll just kind of play it. So it starts off with this little brass fanfare. I tried to make it fairly easy because they only have one rehearsal and then they perform it the next Sunday. So I tried to keep it as easy as possible, but still be interesting. So it's a bit of a fanfare at the beginning, and then it goes into the traditional national anthem with some instrumentation changes, a couple of weird chords, as is the tradition with the national anthem, and big splashy ending as usual. So I hope you enjoy. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Again, it's not as flashy or colorful as the other one. First of all, because I don't have as many instruments to work with, and third of all, because it's the national anthem, I kind of want to give respect to the serious heritage and of the national anthem and the truth behind the words. But in any case, this is most likely just sheerly instrumental. They're probably not going to be singing along with it. Although I tried to leave it open. I wasn't specify whether or not it should be completely singable or whether it should be just an instrumental splashy. So I tried to kind of strike a note in between, so where you could sing with it and it wouldn't interfere with the melody, but it would stand fine on its own. Anyway, so there's a bit of this fanfare at the beginning. As you can see, I'm just doing some pretty basic contrapuntal stuff. The trombones play a little triplet and then hold a note, and while they're holding the note, then the trombones 2 play a triplet, and then the trumpet 1s play a triplet. So that way I'm kind of distributing the parts equally throughout the brass so that, and I'm trying to use voice leading and counterpoint to make the parts kind of fun on their own. If you just listen to the trumpet. Okay, so that part makes sense, so we listen to trumpet 2. Alright, so that part makes sense. There's a bit of an undulation there from note performer. And then this part, trombone. So as you can see, I really try to make the parts sound good by themselves rather than just being like a harmony. Like, I don't know if you've ever sung in choir, but you know, everyone always hates those parts, like the bass or the baritone parts, where it's just like there's this melody, you know, and the baritones are like. There's like that stupid, you know, part that just sings the same note just to fulfill the chord function, but it's not really good part writing. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I'll go ahead and play one more. A bit of a Back to the Future in there. And the tuba. Yeah, and like as I said before, I always try to write fairly decent bass lines, especially because the tubaists usually get really boring parts, especially in film music. I mean, it's just even like in professional music, there's a lot of really boring like whole notes or just tuba parts. So I try to write some decent stuff. So yeah, so this fanfare, I'm in the key of B flat, compositionally speaking. I'm kind of borrowing from the Mixolydian mode. So in the Mixolydian mode, the seventh is a minor seventh instead of a major seventh, which means in this case, if we're in B flat, it would be the A would be flatted. So and then I kind of go back to the B flat and then go to the dominant. So it's just kind of borrowing a chord from the Mixolydian to give it a sort of epic feel. And let's see, there's this a little bit of contrary motion here. They're together and then they kind of separate. Also, I mean, leading wise, if you kind of pay attention to what's happening, you really don't want the thirds to be really low. This is kind of basic voice leading, but you don't want the third of the chord to be very, very low. So if you listen to this final chord, right? So I want it to be a nice low chord, but octaves, and then third, fifth, and then the tonic is on top. So yeah. I would usually voice the third at the top of the chord, but in that case the trumpets would have to be an octave higher, and I want it to kind of be a low sound. So plus brass are very much like an organ when they play all together, because they just have this magnificent blending together. They just sound so wonderful that, in my opinion, I mean, you can play really low chords on the brass, like. Even this, like, that's a very low chord, and if you play that on the strings, it might sound muddy, but the brass just have this rich depth to it where they can play low things. Okay, so then everyone starts out on unison, and I wanted to give people a clear direction of, like, wait, what is this? And it's like, oh, it's a national anthem. So the timpani, kind of has a little bit of a tremolo to kind of signify the ending, and then the snare comes in by itself with its typical, fanfare thing. So. And again with here, I don't want to get too in-depth voice leading wise, but if you pay attention, the parts sound pretty decent on themselves. So obviously we have the melody. So I wanted to double this a little bit higher because, again, this is kind of where, I'm pretty sure they're not going to sing it, but even if they did, it would work because it's just an octave lower. But the voicing sounds wonderful. I'm giving myself a lot more room to work with because the melody is still there. It's an octave higher, instead of this boom, bum, bum. But it also gives me a lot more room to do cool things with the parts, because if it was down low, then I'd have to shift everything lower, and it would get really muddy, and it would have to be boring. So yeah, so that's the bum, 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 right, and then the second trumpet, right. So kind of pretty simple part writing there, very powerful. So a kind of nice little counter melody there if you listen. It's kind of nice, bum 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 bum, and then the trombones I kind of let up there. This whole range, pretty much everything above B flat right here, anything around middle C, not too high, maybe not really higher than an F to be safe, but But that's just a fantastic range for trombones. They just sound so wonderful up there. Right, kind of giving some power to the trumpets. And also, if they get up there, it might create the illusion. It kind of draws attention to this, so it almost sounds like, if you know what I mean. It kind of gives the illusion that you're actually hearing the real melody. So then we have the trombone too, just kind of filling in the harmony that's missing. So again, the baritone is probably the weakest part, but still, I mean, there's only so much. You can't make every part a perfect melody, but it's still better than, just singing the same note. Boom, bum, 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 bum. You kind of want them to go to the bum, but if I have this here, then they need to play the third, because the trumpets are going from the third to the first of the chord, the root of the chord. So I could probably go mum mum mum. So there's a little bit of movement, but I don't think I would like the sound of that. I think is why I didn't do that. So let's hear how that sounds. I don't think that would. I mean, it sounds okay, but I kind of like this trumpet solo thing. Let me let my dog out of my room real quick. Anyway, yeah, so this texture is pretty simple, starting from here. Okay, so then the texture changes. Yeah, this is a lot more straightforward than film writing. So then the texture changes, and before I get further, yeah, so my instrumentation is 2 flutes, 1 clarinet, who normally plays the saxophone, but I wanted to play, who also plays clarinet, so I chose to use him for clarinet. 2 trumpets, 2 trombones, 1 tuba, a timpani, 3 timpani, actually. So as you can see, that's why I did the dominant, and then a dominant an octave higher, and then the root of the chord, to give a nice, to be pretty simplistic. Cymbal, snare drum, some other percussion as well, but nothing too fancy. And then, okay, I literally have 3 violins and 3 cellos. That is the extent of the string section. Okay, so my after thinking deeply and having some experience writing for the small ensemble before, I've kind of learned by experience and from the advice of others that violins do not sound well if there's just 1 or 2, 3 people playing unison. They're kind of like oboes in that sense. Like if you have maybe 4, hopefully 5 or more violins playing unison, it'll sound good. But if you have 2 or 3 violins playing on the same note, it's going to sound slightly out of tune, especially if the group is less than perfect. It's just going to sound weird because of the vibrato. Yeah, and especially, obviously, I only have, there's no equal division that can happen. It's not like I have 4 violins and I can get this 4-part harmony by, giving 1 part to first and seconds, and then I have 3 violins, so I can't divide them up equally, and I can't just have 2-part harmony with the violins and cellos, because if I tried to balance that with the brass, the brass would blow the strings out of the water, even though the strings are mic, so that does compensate for balance somewhat. But so basically what I do is I just chose to make it a giant string sextet. I just decided to give them all their own individual harmony. I did do some doubling up here, but if you'll notice, first of all, I didn't do 2 violins. I did all 3. So that eliminates the problem somewhat, and it's also doubled with the brass. So it's not like the strings are by themselves. So, but that's the only time in this piece, in this arrangement, where I did that. Okay, so after this part, the flutes come in. Nice little part writing here. It goes boom bum da da da. So just kind of an ornamented boom bum 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 da 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 da, right? Boom boom. A nice little counterpoint thing here. The start of unison, then kind of separate. So it's in kind of a nice little patriotic thing, and then a nice little clarinet melody, with a little bit of ornamentation. And the reason I wanted to give them some not difficult, but just something fun, with a little movement, is because as you notice, because of balance issues, I can't really have the winds doing anything over there. In fact, if you'll notice, I really, besides doubling a bunch of strings, I really can't balance-wise do anything over the brass at all, unless it's doubling unless it's doubling something else. It's just not gonna cut it. No pun intended. So that's kind of why since they have this little solo section here, I kind of let them have a fun little part, because if you look at the flute, the clarinet part, it's pretty much this main part that it has by itself. So it does that. I kind of prepare you for the I kind of bring the cellos in, kind of bring them down to where they go into this pizzicato thing. No, they do the pizzicato thing. No, never mind. So nice little tenuto, and then this harmony. Cellos sound very nice in harmony, so it's kind of this low harmony. All right, so and again, I gave, if you notice, the consonant chords, like the really, I don't mean consonant here. Let me. So as you probably know, as I said, thirds can be very muddy when they're very low. So if you take the third, like for example, you take this F major chord, that's a very muddy chord. But if you take the third and move it in octave higher, so it's F, C, and A, it has a very nice sound to it. But you can't do that with every chord because what's going to happen is you're going to have parallel fifths in the bass, and for many reasons, overtones, bad voice leading, just everything, you never want to use parallel fifths. So the solution to that would be to use a sort of muddy chord right here, and then it resolves back. So if you notice, the bass is a fifth, and then a third, and then a fifth. So the voice leading works. There are no parallel fifths. It was a parallel 6, but that's perfectly fine. Parallel 6 are allowed in voice leading. So which means you get a kind of sweet, succulent, open chord here, and then a sort of muddy chord, but then it resolves. So it's almost like the timbre is resolving. So it's like, so you can see it kind of goes from being muddy to. So, and that would be better than making it like, muddy at the beginning and then clear and then muddy at the end, because these are the key points. So those are the ones that need to have really wide open harmony. Plus, strings are almost the opposite of brass. Brass, especially the horns, sound very good with close-knit harmony, especially like horn clusters, trumpet clusters and stuff. They just sound very tight-knit, close harmony, sort of like voices. Whereas the strings sound excellent the further spaced away the individual notes are. The more open and expansive the harmony is, the better they tend to sound due to the overtone series, among other things. But so bum bum bum, and then the brass comes back in. There's this little 3-part harmony thing here, which is kind of nice. So you notice there's this harmony above trumpet, and if this was at the same dynamic as the trombones, it would completely overpower it, and it would distract from the melody. Right, so it would sound terrible. So, but I still want those nice notes on there, and the problem is this bum 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 bum. If we have anything above it, obviously it's going to distract from it. But we can't have any harmony below it because it's so low that any sort of harmony in that register is just going to sound bad. And this is where the melody is going to go. So we don't really have anything else high to do the melody. And I didn't want to just, do high the whole time. I want to kind of give us a variety. So my solution to that was a solution that appears into barbershop music very frequently. I sing a lot of barbershop music. And if you notice, the barbershop setup is, there's of course the bass, the baritone, and the tenor sings the tenor sings melody, but the first tenor is usually in a very light head voice or in falsetto. They sing above everything else. If you listen to barbershop groups, the tenors, but because they're singing in falsetto or they have a very light head voice, or usually they're on opposite sides of the mic, they add a very nice harmony and or a counterline, or just they fill it out and add this extra these extra overtones in there, but it never distracts from the melody because they're singing on falsetto. So I kind of imitated that, but instead of doing that, I just put it in the trumpet, and since it's fairly low, trumpets have a hard time being very quiet if they're above like this B flat. I mean, they can. A great trumpet player can do it, but they don't have a lot of dynamic control the higher in the register they get. So I figured, well, since the harmony that I have in mind is not that high in the trumpet, I'll just give them mezzo piano. And especially since the trombones can be very loud, and this is a very loud range for the trombones, it'll work. And then I gave the bum 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 bum, and then I gave the horns a nice little not the horns. Oh my gosh, the tuba, a nice little thing. And as you can see, I kind of in order to give the other instruments breathing room, the trumpet and trombones that weren't playing with the trio introduce the next part. And this is a little bit different. Instead of having a clean harmony, I have this sort of counterpoint thing between the first and second trumpets, and then I have an accompaniment in the trombone. So you can listen to this. All right. So, and then I have the trombones playing this sort of thingy. And then they go into harmony, and of course the bass line, boom 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 boom. That's kind of this. It goes to this D major sort of augmented type thing. Doggy, shush. I don't know why he's freaking out. It's probably because it's thunderstorming outside. Shh, quiet, doggy. Boom, 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 boom. Again, try to make a nice bass line. Fairly simple. So yeah, let me go ahead and play that. Yeah, so the cellos are doubling what the tuba is doing to give it a nice ensemble power. Cellos don't sound as bad when doubling, and as you can see, the lower cello, this note right here, is underneath the range of the cello, so I made an octave higher. So but when that cello could play the low note, I gave it the note, but I didn't want to make it too muddy, so that's why I only put one cello down there and then two of them up here, and then I kind of did the same thing. When the melody was sufficiently high enough that an octave underneath it was within the cello's range, then I kind of did that. And then I just doubled the melody with the violins. And when this chord change happens, I just accent it with the cymbals, bum ba dum bum 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 ba bum 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 bum, just typical stuff. Obviously nothing in the winds, so we'll go ahead and play this section right here. Well, we'll start from here. Again, since we've done sufficiently else, there's only so much you can do with this orchestra. But since we had a wind thing, since we've had the strings come in, since we've had the harmony change, since we've had enough stuff, we've had enough different ideas happen between this four-part harmony, or not four-part harmony, but this chorale at the beginning, that I decided to do more chorale stuff at this part. And if you notice again, boom. Right, and then we'll play this melody. So of course with the melody, and then the trombones. If I double a part, I always like doubling the melody, obviously, because you want the melody to be the most in the foreground. Bum bum bum. So since they all went to the tonic, I wanted the third to be in there, so I put in the tuba. That's fairly low to have a third, but tubas are excellent blenders, so that's why I gave that low third to them. So that way it's not complete. It's not complete. Let me let the dog out. I'll be right back. I'm back. Anyway, yeah. So the tubas are fantastic blenders, so I kind of give that the third to them. And then we change the texture again. This time we kind of take the brass out completely because they've kind of worn out their welcome because we've had them do a lot of stuff. So also because they're embouchures. I mean, this isn't a very long piece and this isn't very loud, but you still want to give the brass don't have as much endurance as the other sections. The winds usually don't have closed embouchures. Like the mouthpiece doesn't fit around their entire mouth, so their lips don't get tired, and obviously, string players don't have that issue at all. So you generally want to give the brass more rest than the other instruments. All right, so so kind of a nice little thing there with the flutes. With the violins, and I think this is all individual harmony here. This is pretty tightly knit if you pay attention. So, and again with the individual parts, bum ba da ba da bum 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 bum. So. A nice high strident range of each other. So you can see they all have individual parts. When I was writing this, whenever you're writing this closely knit, you have to be very careful that, you have to be careful that all the parts work. You have to be careful that all the parts work contrapuntally. Like, you can't just write casually, otherwise it's going to sound bad. So yeah, closely knit harmony with there. I think that's, with the flutes, yeah, that's probably like 8-part harmony. And then the clarinet has a nice little solo here, And with the pizzicato, I wanted to do something pizzicato, so this is pretty simple, harmony. It starts out just kind of, they're playing the chords, and then there's kind of a nice little thing that happens. So the harmony gets a little thicker at the end to kind of give it a sort of like nutcracker blum 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 blum, kind of a nice thing, like an opening up. And then of course the brass come back in, but the clarinet continues playing that melody to kind of give it some cohesiveness, to kind of glue the parts together. I keep using my hands to gesture, but then I'm like, oh wait, they can't see that. So here. So, and I gave the tuba a pretty typical bass line here because I wanted it to sound rich and full, so I didn't worry about, giving it a good bass line since it already had a lot of good stuff. Even balance of balance is a good thing. No, but timpani, obviously, accent system, ba-da-ba-dum, bubble-bum, nice little things like that. And then, of course, the percussion, especially the snare with this kind of starts giving it some movement and builds it up. Nice little individual part right in here, as you can see, this, they kind of play with each other, Right. So, bum 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 bum, but I kind of wrote this counter melody, bum 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 bum. So over that. I wrote this trumpet counter melody because I wanted to be very powerful and it has to be high in the range. And obviously a trumpet is not going to be able to do this. That's ridiculous. And an octave lower is just too low, so I decided to make a nice counter melody. And then so that the counter melody didn't distract from the real melody, I gave all the strings doubled, and then an octave apart, I think, where I did. Yeah, I gave the counter melody to this violin because I didn't want them to be doubled and apart, but I gave the the main melody to the first violins. Oops, sorry, where are we? Yeah, main melody to the first violins, and then the also doubled an octave below, and then an octave below that, and then all the cellos are on unison. So that kind of solves that problem. So yeah, so there's this melody. And it goes nice into the ending melody. So there's kind of these two counter melodies, and then they mesh together at the end and sort of have the same ending. But it's very powerful. So you can listen. So, the interesting thing, a couple of things to note about this ending here. Boom, boom, bum, 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 bum. That's a very nice note for the thing. But if you notice, there's a kind of cool counter line that the trombones have, and they can scream this out in this register. They're just very loud. So, you know, boom, boom, bum, bum, bum. So, boom, boom, bum, boom, bum. There's kind of this bum 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 bum, again borrowing from the Mixolydian. It goes you know, it goes to F minor, which borrows from Mixolydian. So there's kind of this bum 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 bum. It's kind of a cool thing. If you listen, you can hear it. So, and that's one of the things where I know that will be louder live than it will be here. So you'll be able to hear that boom, 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 boom live. And then typical string stuff, you know, boom, 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 boom. The reason I omitted these cellos at the bottom is actually I don't know why I omitted these. They should be there. Well, mistake on my part. I apologize for that. I think I'll probably just fix that in rehearsal. It's a good thing I'm having this video. So I'll probably change that in a version. But yeah, there should be a third cello playing up here. Whoops. Yeah, they're playing this huge melody, string octaves, and then a nice thick harmony here. And as you can see, I kind of led the voices to their natural place. So you know, it wasn't just really high and then low. You kind of want the voices to make sense and move intervallically in a way that isn't just huge weird jumps and stuff. And then I also gave this really nice bass line at the end, which I was kind of I wanted to do something drum corps, you know, some sort of. And so this is obviously you hear so many arrangements of the national anthem. So this is one thing that I couldn't think of a national anthem arrangement I've heard that has a sort of bass line ending, which is kind of the typical drum corps thing, you know. So bum 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 ba da ba da bum. And I think this might even be, you know, faster. And in real life, I think of a really good group parade, they could be like, you know, bum 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 bum, you know, boom bum 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 ba da da ba dum, and it kind of they just go into that with a timpani fanfare. And those octaves do actually exist, and I did write timpani tuning. So, and as you can see, I'm a bit more detailed with articulation marks than I normally am. Yeah, the flute's coming at the end. As you can notice, I didn't give trills to both the flute 1 and flute 2. The reason is because they're playing in fifths. Then they would be doing parallel fifths. They'd be doing that, and I don't want that because it's parallel fifths. So and it's just terrible. This B flat in the clarinet is perfect. It's right above the cello register. It's right, and it's good register, so that's perfect. This trombone. That's a perfect thing. And also, I've been given all the really high stuff to the first trombone, but both the trombonists are, unlike an orchestra, I mean, both the trombonists in this particular group are excellent. They're probably equally good. So I gave the second trombones a chance to play something. So at the end, they kind of have this, you know, the typical, like, movie logo, Universal Studios, you know, bum, 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 kind of, you know, borrowing from the Lydian mode. So that's kind of this. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. And as you can notice, I added the second in the chord, or the inverted ninth, whatever you want to call it. And I think I added the major seventh too, as well as. I'm not sure if I did. No, I didn't. Okay. Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a pretty straightforward arrangement. Not as colorful or complicated as the other one, but this is an example of how I would go about writing something for real orchestra, and how I would go about writing for an orchestra that isn't typical, an orchestra that we have to really pay attention about things like balance. And again, these winds and strings do not balance against the brass. The brass will just destroy the strings. So two things make up for that. One is the fact that we have miking. So the strings will be adjusted to be louder than the brass. And also, as you can notice, all my heavy brass stuff did not really have anything accompanying with it. And when it did, it was just the cellos were doubling the bass line, and the upper violins were doubling the trumpets, just to give it a more piercing, ensemble sound. So yeah, there you go. The last thing I'm gonna do is, just so you can kind of see what's happening with the part writing, I export this as a MIDI. Let me see if we can do this, and I'm gonna open it up in Synthesia and kind of play through it, so you can kind of see what's going on. Because with this one, the thing that you can pay attention to, Spangled Banner MIDI, is the part writing, the sort of the counterpoint and the individual parts and the way they work is kind of what I've focused more on making really good, because obviously they're real players who play it, and they go up there and rehearse, and they want to have something they can dig into. So I always try to make their parts sound pretty decent by themselves. So nothing too colorful, and nothing too difficult either, because they're only gonna have one rehearsal. So it's a unique challenge. What am I doing here? Yeah, this one. Open with Synthesia. So hopefully this will play back properly. There we go. Sorry that the rhythm is screwing up, but hopefully you'll get an idea. It's funny. Snare drum, oh my gosh. Yeah, so there you go. Hopefully that gave you a bit of a better idea of voice leading. I didn't realize it was going to play back so crappily. It's probably because of my screen capture software. But anyway, I hope you got something out of this video. Not quite as glamorous as my other one, piece-wise. But the next one that I will be showing you, I'll give you a little bit of a... Actually, I can't... Let me see if I can give a demo. I'll give you an example of the piece that I'm going to be picking apart next time. The Adventures of Pepperjack, which is the main titles menu that I've composed. Let me see if I can find it. I'll kind of you can just listen to the note performer piece. I'm getting real trumpet recorded for this particular piece, so that'll be really fun. I'm going to be blending that with the Cinesamples. But yeah, so my next video is going to be picking apart this piece. If iTunes would load. Boing, 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 boing. Doom, 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 boom, 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 boom. I think we got it. And then it loops back into itself because it is a piece of video game music for the main menu. So, yeah. So I hope you look forward to that video. I look forward to making it. As soon as it is finished, notated, as soon as I get all the details worked out, I will be posting that. So I hope you got something out of this video. You can look forward to more. If you have any specific requests, I was thinking about doing a video where we write a piece of music, where basically what I do is I start writing a piece of orchestral music, maybe about 8 bars, maybe 16 bars, in a fairly short, maybe half an hour. I know it's not short. Maybe a half an hour video, and just kind of start writing something from total scratch, and then I take suggestions from you guys, from the audience, on what I should do next in the piece, orchestrally, and kind of where you want it to go, and then I'll kind of orchestrate it. And kind of show you what I would do with the ideas you present. So if any of you would be interested in something like that, then totally let me know, and I'd be happy to do that. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sorry for dog problems and computer processing problems, but hopefully the improved audio quality will make up for it. So I will talk to you guys later. Hope you have a fantastic day. Happy composing.